good.
It's good? Okay. Good afternoon. As Mason said, I know most of you in here, I think, but I am Mark McPeak, teacher at one of the three teachers at El Reno. Just finished my 10th year of teaching. Doesn't seem possible that it's been a decade. But we're going to kind of dive into some stuff that I have found very useful for me over my 10 years of teaching about SAE and school farm management. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have a school farm? Okay, most of you. How many of you feel like that school farm is and can be somewhat daunting? At times it sure can. Feels like a second full-time job. We'll dive into that a little more as we go through. But no, you're not alone. Everybody's been there. And hopefully some things that we go over today will kind of help you feel a little easier about those things. We're going to start with some SAE management type stuff. I've got 4 different handouts here that I'm going to pass them all around the room at one time, and we'll kind of go through them one by one as we go through everything. You are welcome to keep them. You can throw them in the trash, file 13, do whatever you want to with them afterwards. Like I said, this is just some things that I have found that work out for me over the last 10 years. First and foremost, I will tell you this. When I started my teaching career, most of you are, I'd say a good portion of you are seasoned ag teachers, but there are some freshmen in here. And for those of you who have not taught before, the best thing you can do is call your fellow ag teachers. Michael Gusson, one of the ag teachers that's here, helped me as much getting started through teaching ag with SAE type stuff. My first year, he probably kind of helped me from drowning some on some different things. And we're going to talk about a few of those different things as we get going here. Just kind of give you a few things. We're going to start as those handouts come around. There's a letter that I have typed up, and I found that to be really, really good for first-time families that have never shown anything before. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is based on show pigs. That's what I'm the most heavily involved in. But you can take these, if you are more heavily involved with sheep and goats, or you're more heavily involved with cattle, you can take some of these things and apply them to those species, okay? The first thing we're going to talk about is that letter. And I feel like this is just something that I can give that kid and those parents to take home, for them to read through, and for them to talk about as a family. Because as you all know, if any of you have shown livestock, it's a family thing. And in order for that kid to have a successful SAE show livestock experience, I'm a firm believer it takes mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever their guardian is, it takes everyone involved. And I truly, truly believe that. And so, you know, sorry, that was our bell for all of those of you watching. Anyways, it's important that you let those parents know that their kids' best interests, you have their kids' best interests at heart. And it's not about, shouldn't be about how many banners, all those things, how many buckles, all those things that we can collect over a show career. It's about the fact that we're trying to teach their kid some responsibility, a good work ethic, and what it means for something else to be dependent upon them. Okay? And that's the first thing we talk about there in that first paragraph of that letter. I think it's very, very important to be upfront with those parents, to let them know that. They need to know what their family is signing up for, okay? And so it's really, really important to talk to them about that. Ask them what their goals are. How many of you have ever done that with a kid and their parents? It's important. Is it a good goal to have them to say, hey, Mr. McPeak, we want to go win OYE? Absolutely. That's my goal every single time I'm trying to go out and find show pigs. I want to do that too. That is what I would term a career goal, okay? I'm talking, set a short-term goal. Hey, let's make the county premium sale. Let's go try to win a division at a jackpot or a district show. Let's try to win the county show, and then you just progress towards those things. They need to know what their goals are and what their mindset is. And it's good for you to know from those parents and those kids, hey, this is what we want out of it. For the kid that says, or the parents that say, yeah, we just want Johnny to have a good experience and try to learn something new. That's okay. There are going to be those kids and those parents that we have to help those kids too, okay? And so we need to know what their goals and expectations are. If they don't expect and their goal is not to win the whole show, it's good for you to know that. It's good to have those conversations. They're not always the easiest conversations to have. And everybody's probably mindset in the beginning is, we want to win everything we go to. I get it. You're never going to win every one of them. I don't care who you are. And it's important to let them know that. It's important to talk about and make sure that they understand what their responsibilities are for those projects on a daily basis. I can't stress enough. Those animals are dependent upon them to eat, and if they don't have an automatic water like most show pigs do, they're dependent on them to get a good, clean source of water every day. And so those two things are a must. The other TLC things that we're going to talk about in a little bit, I feel like are a must if you want to take those next steps and to be successful. And so those are just some things. That letter, are you going to hand that out to Johnny, who has been showing for 3 seasons, and you've had their parents? No, it's pointless. It's pointless to print that piece of paper off because they've read it for 3 years in a row, and it's going to get filed 13th. And that's fine. They know, after being with you for 3 years, what your expectations are, and you know what their expectations are. And if they're with you if they've been with you for 3 years, you know that they're serious about it, and it's something they want to do together as a family. So just make sure you communicate that with them. Purchasing livestock can be very stressful. One of the handouts I gave you is like an order form. That's something that I do give every family because I want to know what they want, what their budget is. Are they going to keep them at the school farm? What breeds do they want? We're fortunate enough in Canadian County, most of us, we've never shown gilts at our county shows, so we don't show many gilts. It's mainly just bears, so I just put the breeds on there, and I didn't even put gilts or bears. I just put the breeds. So, you can modify that if do it however you want, but, that's something that's important to talk about with them is what is your budget? Are you planning on keeping it at school farm? This is where you get mom and dad's information, you get kids' information, because some of us have had those kids come up to us in class one day that, is an 8th grader and said, hey, Mr. McPeak, I think I want to show some pigs. Okay. Have you talked to your parents about it at all? Well, no, not really, but my buddy's doing it, and I think I want to. First and foremost, you need to go home and you need to talk to your parents about it. because it's a financial investment they're going to have to help with, and you're going to have to be in charge of caring for it, so on and so forth. And then once mom and dad come in and say, hey, yeah, this is what we're going to do, then I give them this. And on the budget deal, that's where things can get a little bit tricky. Some people may not want to give you, hey, we want 5 pigs, here's 5 signed checks. Guess what? That's normal. People don't want to do that. I get it. It's not necessarily that they don't trust you. It's that if they sign a check and you accidentally lose that check, then they're out with whoever else filled it out. Okay? Whatever it was for. Some people only will deal in cash. And so those are just some things to think about when you're purchasing, and on the budget side of things and the number side of things. I always average it out. If a kid comes to me and says, hey, Mr. McPeak, and I'm going to be very, very hypothetical here, because this never happens to me. It may happen to some of you. If a kid comes to me and says, hey, Mr. McPeak, I want 3 pigs and I've got $6,000 to spend. Well, okay, we're going to take that averages out to $2,000 a piece. Well, that doesn't mean that this bear is going to be 2,000, this one's going to be 2,000, this one's going to be 2,000. But I take the average and I give myself some flexibility. If I want to spend, 3,000 on one and another 1,000 here, well, then I know I've got 2,000 left to spend on another one, or vice versa. And so just know those kind of things. Talk about that. The other thing, when we talk about purchasing animals, how many of you have talked to your administrators about taking your vehicles out of state? That is becoming more and more of a common thing. I think we talked about it at lunch a little bit, and you're not the only one that I know of that they're not allowed to take vehicles out of state. I know of another ag teacher. Their school vehicles are not allowed to go out of state. They have to communicate with their local dealership and sometimes get one from them and take them out of state. I can't stress to you enough about how important that part is. Because if you know up front, hey, listen, I can't take my vehicle out of state to go purchase livestock. Well, then that's when you lean on your friend who's another ag teacher a couple towns down or a county over or whatever. Hey, can we take your vehicle? Yeah, let's go. And then you split fuel, split hotel rooms, do whatever. But know your school board's policy about taking vehicles out of state before you just take out and go. Communicate with your principal. Hey, just going to give you a heads up. I'm going to be out of pocket for the next 3 or 4 days. We're going to the Midwest. I'm going to the Midwest buying pigs. Okay, hey, appreciate it. You might get some more questions. They might not understand what you're doing. And that's a good point. That's a good point where you can sit down and have a conversation with them. Well, why are you got to go out of state? And we're going to get to some of that here in just a minute, too, on another handout I gave you. Sometimes in the fall of the year, it's the off season on show pigs. It's the off season for those Midwest people and their show pigs. So sometimes they're a little cheaper than in-state animals. So that's why we go. We're trying to find those kids the best project for the budget they gave us. Okay? And so that should always be our goal. Let's see here. There's a prices handout I gave you talking about prices a little bit. And in that letter that I have, it says, there's a phrase in there, it says $750 is the new $350. Back, seems like a lifetime ago, when I was showing pigs, it was pretty common. You could get a respectable show pig for $350 to $500. That average sheet that I gave you is something that I literally just researched. It's public knowledge on showpig.com a couple days ago. And this is this spring only Oklahoma breeders on showpig.com. Okay? There is 25 sales listed on this sheet. It's not the entire spring. I started in like end of April and made it to about first or middle of May or something like that. And so I got 25 online sales on showpig.com, and this is exactly what showpig.com says they averaged on how many head. So for 25 sales, the average show pig in Oklahoma this spring cost $1,211. So if you tell Johnny's mom and dad we can get him a quality show pig that'll make the county premium sell for $350, know that you are putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Okay? Because there are no guarantees about any livestock, and especially show pigs. Those things are looking for time to get cold, I promise. I'm not telling you got to go tell every single one of them, hey, before I can buy you a show pig, we got to have $1,500 a head. Because that will scare the majority of them away. You will not get them. They'll go do something else. They'll go play soccer. They'll go play baseball. They'll do whatever, okay? And we want those kids, right? We want them to be in our program. We want them to do these things. So I'm not telling you to go tell their parents, hey, before I'm going to buy Johnny a show pig, I need $1,500 a piece. It's not what I'm telling you. It is best for you to be upfront with them about what the averages are. It's best for you to be upfront with them about what feed and wood chips and supplements cost, because that's something they're going to have to do every single day. Now, you can go find quality, respectable animals for under this average price, okay? It's just going to take some time on your part. It's going to take you spending lots of time in the pickup that the school provides for you, nonetheless, scouring to find those animals. And it can be done. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's a fast process, because it's not. But it is possible. So this is something that I had been kind of curious on, and with me doing this presentation, I kind of looked it up. I will give this to every single parent when I give this, just as a reference for them, as a guide. It lets them know kind of what the baseline looks like. I'm not saying every pig I'm buying is going to be $1,200 and that they're all going to come from Oklahoma, because let's be honest, they're not. But I think it's important for those parents to know, hey, you know, back whenever I did it, we could get those show pigs from Mr. McPeak for $350. I understand, and I'm not saying I won't get your kid a $350 one, but you need to know that I want you to get 5, and let's get a $750 one, a $500 one, a couple $350 ones, and maybe a $1,000 one, or something. You know, you just average it all together. I'm not saying it can't be done, but man, it is very, very difficult to find that and do that anymore. Okay. What do you guys think is a good policy when somebody says, okay, here's 5 checks. My kid wants 5 pigs. We've got $5,000. I mean, I personally, and this is just something I do, and this is one of the things that I learned from Gus here. People get really weird whenever you're handling their money. Rightfully so. I get weird with people handling my money too. I work hard for that stuff. If somebody gives me checks, and most people will give you checks, it's the best thing that can happen, I promise. Give you a signed check. You keep up with it. I take this form, and I know, okay, Johnny has given me 5 checks. He wants 5 pigs, and their budget's $5,000, and he wants these breeds. 3-hole punch this, put it in a 3-ring binder, and carry it with you every time you go out to buy show pigs. And then whenever you get done buying Johnny's pigs, you know you're done. Okay? All of his checks are gone. His form's filled out. Done. Go on, and you're just constantly going through that with all the kids. The check deal, the best thing you can do to CYA is when you fill out that check to that breeder, you take a picture of it and you immediately send it to mom and dad. Gus taught me that years and years ago when I was at Hinton. And it was something that when he said to me at first, it was like a light bulb. Hey, dummy, why haven't you been doing that? But it makes perfect sense because, I mean, these things are a big financial investment. Cover your butt, take a picture of it, send it straight to them so they know, okay, my ag teacher wrote this check for this much. I need to be looking for that money to come out of the bank, and I expect this pig to be from this breeder. That way there's no questions. Some parents will deal in cash. That can be very daunting too. I'll never forget when I was student teaching, there was a parent brought the two guys that I was student teaching under. He brought the ag teacher, big old roll of $100 bills. That was their show pig budget. And that's how they do business every single year. I still am one of those, if I've got cash and I find a pig, I will set that money out in the seat of my pickup, on the hood of my pickup. I'll fan it out, whatever. Take a picture of it. Send it to that mom and dad. Hey, I just spent this much money on this pig at this farm, yada, yada, yada. I can't stress to you enough how important it is to leave a paper trail when you're talking about purchasing animals. Something that was never taught to me, that I didn't learn until after probably my second year teaching ag. And I went from having to literally had 6 pigs on feed when I started at Hinton, and there was 50 on feed when I left. And so we got to a point where we were buying a lot more than what I was accustomed to. And so that was one thing that helped me a lot about, and you're going to gain those parents' trust when you do that. When you send them a text and say, hey, I just left so-and-so farm, got Johnny a pig, this is the check, this is how much it's for, this is who it's to, I'll be home either tonight or I'll be home in 3 days with it. I'm in the Midwest, I'll be home in 3 days. You're going to gain their trust, and they're going to say, hey, you know, Mr. McPeak seems like he's kind of on top of things. He's pretty responsible. He's taking care of my money, or at least I think he is, you know. And that goes a long ways. It goes a long ways. After you get projects home, this varies for each species, I know. How often do we as advisors check on those projects? My rule of thumb with my kids at my program that I'm in charge of, I see every single one of them at least once a week. Bare minimum once a week. I'm pretty fortunate. Our school district is not huge. And so some of you, your school district is very big. And that can be I get it can be a challenge. But I feel like if I'm there and I make a change feeding-wise, I can usually see some type of change in about 7 days. Now, show pigs are different than cattle. They're different than sheep and goats. If you change feed on a calf and you go back 7 days later, you're probably not going to see anything. You probably can get by with going every other week. Or, you know, if you don't think you can see a change for 3 weeks, that's fine. But swing by and check on it, you know, on that second week just to make sure. And then on week 3, make sure that the kid or the parents or both are there. And that leads me to my next point of when you're checking projects, make sure it's beneficial. Not only for you to see the animal, but for the kid and the parents to see you seeing the animal, talking to them about it. I know you guys are just like me, and you've got 9,000 other things going on with your job, with your family, with whatever. And it's real easy to get in the groove of, hey, I know Susie's parents, they don't get home till 5:30. I'm going to swing by there and check that thing on my planning period, 7th hour, and just see how things are going. I get it. I do it. You're going to do it. I get it. But don't get in the habit of doing that every single time. Because the other way that you build relationships with those parents, with those kids, is being at the barn with them. Making sure those kids or those parents are there to get those animals out of their pen, let you look at them, talk about what's going on with them. That's how you build that rapport. And ultimately, you're gaining their trust by doing that. They're seeing that you want the best for their child. Okay? The other thing about checking projects, not every one of them are going to work. Okay? It's not your fault. It's not always going to be the kid's fault. It's not always going to be the parent's fault. Things just happen. Okay? They need to know that up front too. They need to know that we're buying 12 show pigs and we might only have 2 to take to the county show in the spring. Probably you'll be lucky to have 2 if you only get 12. We're buying, 2 show heifers. And we're spending $10,000 a piece on them things. I get it. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of investment. Does not guarantee anything. Doesn't mean that, they're going to grow the fastest, they're going to be the best doing, or any of those things. When you go to a kid's place, whether it's school farm or at their house, either one, and those parents and that kid are there and they're getting that animal out and you see something that's not quite right, talk about it with them. Be upfront. Be honest. Be positive. Don't just look at the animal and say, yep, that one sucks. Because that's not going to do anything for that kid or that parent. That just comes off as you being negative, is all it does. So try to find a positive way to say, hey, I noticed this. We're going to try to change feed and see if we can't fix it. And if we can't, we might have to call the punt team and just continue with the other 4. Or whatever it is, okay? But find ways to try and be positive about it. Because if you go to a kid's place and you're constantly telling them once a week or once every other week, every time you're there, this one sucks, oh, that one's, whatever, it's not going to be fun for them. And at the end of the day, they need to have some fun. It needs to be competitive, but they got to have some fun too. Or they're just going to quit. And so I can't stress enough, try to find a positive way to reinforce constructive criticism. Feeding projects. All I'm going to tell you is there are about 9 million different feed companies that you can buy feed from. There are about 9 million different feed additives that you can buy feed from. And I'm not just talking about show pigs. I'm talking about every species. I'm telling you, go to your local feed store, talk to the owner of your local feed store, and tell them what you would like to get, what you're comfortable with feeding. And if they say, hey, you know what? We tried that in the past, and we got hung with some feed, and it just didn't work. Say, you know what? I understand. Try to feed something that they have. And if it doesn't work for you, then maybe drive 15 minutes down the road or 30 minutes down the road. See if that feed store has it. And if they do, and that's what you want those kids to feed, and those parents are okay with traveling to get it, they'll go get it. As competitive as this SAE livestock thing has become, and the financial commitment it takes, if there's a feed that those kids need, most of those parents are willing to drive and go get it. When I was teaching at Newcastle, we had to get some feed from Shawnee. I had a dad go over there however many times he needed to. He said, what I need. And if they didn't have it at the local feed store, he went over there and got it. And never complained one time because that's what he needed. So feeding wise, I'm not here to tell you how to feed animals. That's a whole new ballgame. I don't think anybody's smart enough to do that, honestly. But get with your local feed store. Talk to the owner. Talk to the person that orders the feed. Tell them what you would like. And if you don't know what you like, talk to the people, your friends. Other people within this profession. That's what we're here for. Lean on those people. Find those things out. Okay? It's really, really important. And it can be a big headache, but it's not meant to be. If you'll just try to do those things, it'll work out a lot easier. Daily care and TLC. You can do as much or as little, and the results will show in the end. And that's something you need to be upfront with those parents about and that kid about. I firmly believe if a kid could, feed early enough in the morning to brush their pig while that pig's standing there eating before they go to school, and then as soon as they get there at the barn to do chores in the evening, when they're standing there eating, they're brushing. They're getting those animals out, training them to the whip and breaking them and exercising them. It's the days of getting the show animals out for the first time, working with them for 10 minutes and taking them to the show and a kid having some luck, they're over. They're gone. It's literally a family thing in the barn, twice a day, doing chores, working animals. We started, Taryn will laugh, my wife and kids and I started something new for us. We're going to show sheep for the first time in my life, my kids' life, my wife's life. And it's been a lot of fun, but hey, listen, it's something that we're going up there and we're doing as a family, and every species needs to be that way. It needs to be a family thing. That's where we get to spend a lot of time with our kids. And not only learn about stuff that's going on in the barn with the animals, but we learn about their day and what happened and so on and so forth. And so spend time, tell them, spend as much time in the barn as they can. Because I promise you, if that kid and their parents are going to the barn and spending, let's just say, 2 hours every evening, after they get home and then they go to the barn and do chores and they're spending a couple hours, promise you, there's 10 kids across the state that are going out and spending 4 hours at the barn. Guarantee you. And I get we all have things come up, but it's going to happen. To go back a little bit about purchasing. When it's buying season, we just wrapped up show pig buying season for this summer. And usually try to buy February, born-ish pigs, heavy on the ish. Wintertime, buying from middle of September all the way through the 1st of November, middle of November, whatever. You got deadlines that you have to have those animals in place by. They have to be in the kids' possession by certain dates. What do we do when, and this happened to me this last year, I was done buying pigs this last fall. And I had a dad who had pigs on feed, and he said, hey, I think they're fixing to contact you about wanting some pigs. And I said, are you kidding me? He said, no, I'm not. He said, but if you'll just hear them out and give them a chance, he said, I'll vouch for them. You're going to want them. Okay, so I meet them at the school farm because they need to use the school farm. Yep. 10 minutes. Okay. They need to use the school farm. And so I meet them up there, and we get them some pigs and all those things. And, man, it works out great. It ends up being a really good deal. So just know that when it comes time to buy them, just because you think you're done, don't make that a firm, hard deadline. There are ways to work around things, okay? School farm. We talked, that's what we kind of opened with. We're going to kind of end with that, okay? How many of you are a plumber or an electrician? As ag teachers, we're expected to know everything about plumbing and electrical work. And that can be the most daunting part of the school farm. In my opinion, it is for me. I know zero about electrical work. I know if I plug it in the outlet, it's supposed to come on. That's what I know, okay? That's what, and so it can be very, very hard to know, hey, who do I need to talk to about this? My guy at El Reno Public Schools is Wes Brower. He's the head of maintenance. And I hope he never leaves. Because I don't care if it's a water line break in December 30th, and we're on Christmas break, and a kid calls me, hey, Mr. McPeak, this water line just busted. I can call Wes, and he can have his crew go out there in a couple hours, and boom, it's done. And I never had to leave my family's house from having Christmas. Not once. I can do the same thing with electrical. There will be someone within your program who is showing these animals. Their dad or their grandpa or their uncle is an electrician or has done some electrical work. Talk to those people. Make those connections. It's very, very important to do those things. School farm work days. It's hard to do in the middle of the feeding period in the wintertime and in the summertime because you got animals in those facilities. It's hard to go through and deep clean. So when you get that set of animals out of the school farm, set aside a day where those kids and those parents bring their gloves, bring their shovels, bring their power washers, bring all that stuff, tear everything down, power wash everything, get it set back up. That way it's all done and sanitized, okay? Mowing the school farm. Our school farm is huge. And if you literally try to mow that thing with a zero turn, it would take you almost a week to get it done, and then by the time you get done, you got to start back where you first started. So, I mean, we mow along the roadways, right up around the barns, and then, we'll try to get a tractor and a brush hog out there a couple times to knock everything down. The other thing is, those parents who have kids feeding animals out there, their butts can hop on those things just as easy as you can. Okay? It's not, they get to keep their animals there and not have to pay an electric or a water bill. They can help do some of that stuff. And most of them will. You got to ask them. Hey, I'm going to be out of pocket for the next 10 days. Can you maybe run the lawnmower where we always mow it, whatever, so on and so forth. Okay. How much longer we got? 7 minutes. Okay. So, questions? I had to skip some of it. Anybody got any questions?
Okay, so
yep.
At my school farm, I have one family who shows pigs.
Mm-hmm.
They live in town, and so the only property they have to house their pigs is at the school farm. And they've been using it, just them, that family, for like the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone through a couple kids in that family. And the last ag teacher or ag teachers didn't have much control over the school farm. So I walked into basically that family's school farm. And I've had trouble keeping it organized. Do you have any advice on how to handle that?
Yeah, so I would get with the parents, not with the kids, and just say, hey, listen, here's the thing. The school owns this facility and this property. We've got to change the way things are done. It's my job as the ag teacher to manage, facilitate, and oversee this facility. And this is what I would like to do. And if they give you any pushback, then you need to involve your principal first. And then, if you have to, a superintendent. But eventually what that's going to boil down to is this. If, let's say that one family they're the only ones, well, this winter you might get 3 other kids that need it. Well, they don't want to give up 5 of their pens that they've been getting to use, but you don't have the space in order to give everybody everything they need. If they don't want to get with the program and get on the same team, then they need to go build a barn somewhere else or show 4-H. Pretty much. Yep.
How often do you take parents and students along with you whenever you're going to purchase?
Anytime they can. I am, it's hard to do that because obviously parents' work schedules is a lot different than ours. Anytime a parent can go, it's better, in my opinion. That way they can be involved and you can be there to help guide and direct them in the way they need to go. When I was at Hinton, I had about 3 or 4 dads went with me almost everywhere I went. At El Reno, doesn't happen very often. Everybody's schedules are just different, but I do encourage that. It's a good thing because you're spending their money, and if they are there and are comfortable with you spending that money, then it just kind of helps build that trust.
Mark, I got a question.
Yep.
In all the years that I've been doing this, I've had a school farm, and I've never found a good way of dealing with this. Whenever you have several students in the school farm, you got that one that is not taking care of their animal. And you always have a parent that'll come up and say, hey, Johnny's not feeding this morning. I haven't seen him there in the last 2 days. You know, when it boils down to the point whenever it's time to extract that animal from the school farm, how do you handle that? I've never been able to find a good effective way without just really causing some serious problems.
So that was one of the things that I actually skimmed over because I was running short on time. The school farm contract that I gave you, it says Yukon FA. You literally can Google that. You can Google school farm contracts. There's going to be one for Yukon pop up. There's going to be one for Grove pop up. I also have one that Mr. Major at Weatherford sent me. What I did, because I had that, I've had that every single place I've been to. And you will have it. The best way that you can go about it is get a school farm contract. Make it your own. Make it for your school farm. Take it to your superintendent. Let them proofread it. If they say, hey, listen, this is good, then have them take it to the school board. Get it passed by the school board. And it needs to, in black and white, say, if the exhibitor does not do such, and such, their animal will be removed. Now, to try and keep from getting to that point, because we don't want to get to that point of removal, to try and keep from getting to that point, first step I always take is with exhibitor. Bring them in when they come to class in the ag building. You've been out there 2 weeks in a row, hadn't been a brush picked up, their pens are dirty, you can tell feed has been limited, so on and so forth. Bring that kid in to the office in the ag building. What's going on? If they say nothing, you say, well, for 2 weeks in a row now, I've been by your pen at the school farm or at your house or whatever, at the school farm. Your pen's dirty. It's wet and getting other neighbor wood chips wet. There hasn't been a lot of feed. There hasn't been a brush picked up. And before this, everything was fine. So something in your life is going on. Tell me what's going on. And if they keep saying nothing, then you say, okay, here's the thing. This is what we've got to do. Because if you don't do this, you and your parents and I and the school administrator have signed a contract. And if you don't take these steps, this is what we're going to get to. And then if we have to revisit it, then I bring the parents in. Actually, I will try to send a text message to the parents and let them know, hey, I talked to Johnny today in the office about his project. Things aren't up to snuff. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Then it lets them know, hey, we've kind of slacked as parents from going to the school farm the last couple weeks, and Johnny's slacked too. We need to get back in there. I genuinely don't feel like there is a great answer to your question because you've been doing this for how many years? 35 years. You've had a school farm all 35 years, and you've probably had that problem every single year.
Every year.
I've been teaching for 10. I've had a school farm for 10. I've had it for 10. You will have those problems. The best thing you can do is address it as soon as you see it, right then, with the kid, with the exhibitor, and with the parents as well. And then to try and keep from getting removed, because that's not what anybody wants. It's awkward for everyone. But if that's what it comes down to, that's what it has to. Now, I will say on the removal side of things, if you get to that point, you better make sure that it's in your contract, that it says that in there, and that the parent, the exhibitor, and your administrator have signed it, and that it is school board approved. Because that is the only thing that will keep your butt out of hot water if you remove that animal from that facility for that child. That is the only thing that will save you. Okay? Perfect.
I actually took the superintendent principal out to my farm and loaded up a pig and took it to the kid's house for him.
Yep.
So,
That's good too. That way they can see the problem. Hey, and the other thing about that, when you walk up on a problem like that, take pictures of it. Send it to mom and dad. Say, hey, this is what's going on with your kid. Okay? Just let them know. All right, my time is up. I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your day.